We will get started then. So
Okay,
we've got Colin with us today and Rachel. How are you guys doing?
very well. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah,
A bit of a
Okay.
different one today. So can you introduce yourselves a little bit? Because I've not had two people before. We're just going to wing it, see how we get on. So yeah, let us know who you are and what we're going to talk about, if that's all right.
Okay, I'm Colin. I'm an ADI from Kilwinning in Scotland, and with me I have one of my learners, Rachel.
Yes.
Rachel was with me on my part three. She was my learner for my part three. And yeah, we're going to talk about part three.
And I'm just here to wait and answer things.
Right, it's going to be good to hear your kind of experience of the part three because my first student was really nervous. And that kind of affected the lesson along with my terrible teaching because I failed my first part three as well. So it's going to be interesting to hear it from your point of view so that other people who are getting ready for the part three and picking what students to use and maybe telling the students what to expect. It's probably going to be good to have it from your point of view as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so because I think, and like, obviously we discussed that previously, like because obviously you'd asked me initially
Yes.
for your first test, but you were like, it's fine, it's too much hassle, I'll just take
Well,
someone else.
Rachel was my second choice for my first part three. Sorry.
No, I get it. I shouldn't have even went out with you.
She was my backup. But yeah, well, obviously my first part three didn't go as well as expected, and one of the things was that my part three examiner had said that what I was planning on doing with that particular learner, he said that wasn't suitable. She wasn't ready for what I was doing, etc., etc. So yeah, did a second part three a few months later with Rachel, and yeah, the outcome was successful.
I think as well though, we done like quite a lot of like planning.
We did.
Like we done a lot of planning just obviously because you knew what to expect after like you kind of
After
failed
the
it the
first
first
one.
time. So
yeah, first part three. To be fair, I thought I'd aced it. I did. I did, yeah. I thought there's, a strong chance. I finished that part three lesson, and I thought it'd been a really strong lesson, really good lesson, and yeah, obviously was told otherwise. My experience when I left was, the examiner's wrong. How could he have not seen that was an awesome lesson? But I went back and reflected, and had a few more lessons with my instructor, and then suddenly started to see things a little bit more from the examiner's point of view. I went, actually, hold on, I wasn't ready for this, and my instructor shouldn't have. Well, he should have been aware that I wasn't ready. To be fair, I didn't have a great, not didn't have a great experience with my instructor. Though we didn't really, I don't really felt we gelled until possibly 2 or 3 lessons before my second part three, and then there seemed to be more of an understanding and things really fell into place. You might notice that as well, because
yeah, no, I did a bit.
Because the last 4 or 5 lessons before my second part three were all done with Rachel as the learner, and were done with my instructor. Well, basically sitting in the back.
Yeah.
Apart from one lesson where we did with him delivering the lesson.
Yeah.
Because that was the. I mean, I passed my test 33 years ago, and that was the only time I'd actually seen a driving lesson delivered.
See, I thought that was insane. The
That's
fact that
weird.
you learn how to be a driving instructor, but you never actually get to watch someone give a lesson. I thought that was dead strange.
Yeah, weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Josh, we'll let you get a word in.
No, this is good. Let's go for it. That was something that really helped me. I was similar with my part three. My first one, I had seen a few lessons, but not many, failed, and then spent a lot of time observing another driving instructor. And that made a huge difference. But what were the differences between then maybe your teaching strategies and your approach to your training from the first part three to the second part three?
Yeah, okay, so I thought I'd planned the lesson really well. But to be fair, there was no hazard drill. I'd been basically doing things the way that I thought was great. I'd been telling my learner about looking ahead, gathering information, all this kind of stuff. I had no idea there was any such thing as MSPS, LADA, and all the rest of it. It wasn't even on my radar. you know, which I feel if I'd had more time with my instructor, it might have been more obvious if he had actually sat in the car with me. But a lot of the time, with my instructor was sat in, you know, coffee shop saying, "Well, how do you think you're getting on?" You know, but yeah. So
because I found as well, I found like see times where he was the back of the car, it tended to kind of like impact your teaching a bit. Let's say obviously if he actually had like an input at the end, if he was like telling you something, but it was more so just like wee specific things if you know what I mean.
Right, okay.
But I don't know. That's why I'm just like I think it's insane how very little communication you have with the people that are meant to be teaching you, because it's like it's a bit bizarre.
But anyway,
this is good. Keep going. So how many hours train did you do? 40 hours and decide not to go on a PDI license, or did you just do training as and when?
I just did training as and when. I reckoned I stopped counting about 150 hours, so I reckon I've done about 200 hours training before my second part 3.
Is that with a trainer or teaching lessons?
That's teaching lessons. With my trainer, I counted up. I think there was 44 hours, but that was spread over parts 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, you don't need an awful lot for part 1, and you know, a couple hours for part 2. But yeah, most of that time, most of that time was sort of really discussing what happened in lessons that I'd had and how I was getting on. But I didn't really have anything to judge it against. The franchise that I got my training through, you know, give you a couple of great big binders full of words, but you know, you open them, read the words, and start reading the words, close it over again. It's just, you know, too hard to go through. So yeah, it was kind of largely winging it, and you know, looking at stuff on YouTube, and you know, and yeah,
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think up until maybe sort of 4 or 5 hours before second part 3, I was basically teaching you based on what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, and how I'd been driving for the last 33 years.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I mean, we're fine though. No accidents have happened. I think things are going fine. But yeah.
So did you notice a difference in the lessons when the training had kind of started taking an effect after the part 3? From the receiving end of your driving lessons, did you notice much of a difference?
So is that for Rachel or?
Yeah. So when you're having for Rachel, when you're having the driving lessons, could you tell much of a difference from what you was having to how he'd then changed his approach to teaching?
Yeah, I think sometimes, but I mean, it was more kind of like, see, obviously there was like times where like we'd be out, and if he kind of chimed in, he was like, well, it was actually more so. See, once I'd had a lesson with him, and we kind of together noticed there was things that he was doing and whatever else. And I think after that point, that's kind of when it started to change a bit. Let's see, just like just assertion in your teaching, things like that. And I think that was like a big thing, like, to have someone else.
And I think one of the other things as well is that once we started having my trainer in the car, we started making things a lot more formal, a lot more structured. I thought I was putting structure in, but I wasn't putting enough structure in.
Yeah, and I think the fact, like, because he did kind of say that sometimes, I think, and I think like after that was kind of brought up, it did tend to make a bit of a difference, like just obviously in how lessons were delivered and things. But
and you can tell we're both sort of fairly chatty, and I think a lot. I think once we kind of sort of we realized that we weren't getting as much done because we were spending so much time chatting. We kind of made a conscious effort to knock down the head a little bit, didn't
we? You can't tell, honestly. You can't notice.
So it's Rachel. I'm not normally like this.
I'm always like this, so
well, make the lessons interesting.
Yeah,
and I would imagine that helped for the part 3 because you could have the conversations, and I would imagine you're willing to give answers, whether they're maybe right or wrong, and ask questions. And I think that's a lot of what the part 3 is that rapport and working together to achieve a goal.
To be fair, it's one of the reasons why I chose Rachel on this one. My first part 3, the learner I chose was, well, it was between the other girl and you, and they were both very good at giving me feedback and asking me questions. And I thought, well, that's going to. Sorry, I've got one of the dogs destroying stuff in here. And I thought, well, that's exactly what I need is for somebody to ask me questions, because then I can expand on things. And you were really good at. You always have been good at asking questions. You're not shy to.
Well, there was, I think, see, like with my just the way that I learned anyway, because I've had previous instructors and whatever else, and it was very much just like, this is just how it is, and that's how you're going to learn.
Yeah.
But I found, just because of the way that, like, I don't know, I just feel like we kind of bounce off each other that way. But I learned through like asking questions and doing things like that, and like, I don't know, like sometimes we'll do things and I'm like, I don't really like that. What if we did it this way? Let's see if it's what the radio and things like that. And just like,
that's right. That was a perfect example. The radio, wasn't it? I would never have considered having the radio on in the car during a lesson, because I'm thinking, well, there's got to be a whole thing, But you in fact, do you know what it was? I think it was to do with, we were chatting so much, weren't we? And I was looking at ways of cutting that down. And I'd suggested in fact, it was more about focus, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I'd suggested that we did commentary driving to try and keep Rachel's focus. And it was actually, you said, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and it was
kind of have the radio on.
Yeah, can we put the radio on? Because I feel like that will kind of keep me focused on my driving. And sure enough,
it did.
Brilliant driver. I'll see when the radio's on. I'm like, this is fantastic.
And I've since learned, and now I ask some of my other learners, do you want the radio on? Would it help?
Yeah.
So there you go. Something you taught me.
There you go.
See, we're always learning. It's great.
Yeah.
I have a few students, and the first thing they do when they get in the car is connect their phone and put their terrible music on. But there you go. Sorry, I've dropped you in it there. You're gonna have to put up with different music now.
Actually, we didn't have the radio on tonight, did we?
No, we didn't.
No.
But I think because of what we were doing, because I knew it was something that I was actually having like, a problem with. And I was like, I kind of want to just. I didn't really want to suggest it on anyway, because I was like, I want to kind of sit and actually focus properly on what I'm doing, because I feel like having the radio on, see, for like going like a big drive.
Yeah.
That's fine, because it keeps me focused on what I'm doing. It's just like the kind of wee things that you're supposed to be doing, like just like your observations, whatever. It keeps me in like a kind of like a constant, if you know what I mean. It's just what I'm meant to be doing. But if I'm doing something like really, really specific, where I actually have to sit and concentrate and think on it, I need no noise. I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to think about it. It's going to be fine. But yeah.
A little bit like when you get lost and have to turn the radio down to read the road signs.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's like that. That's exactly what it's like.
No, it's good. It's interesting. How did you find the part 3 then? We'll go from maybe the preparation for it and then the actual part 3 from both points of view. It'd be interesting, because it sounds like you knew, Rachel, what was on the line with the test, and kind of maybe the pressure that Colin was under to pass.
Yeah, no, like we'd always had like multiple kind of discussions about it and whatever else, and Colin made me very aware of what we were going to be doing on the day, so it wasn't as stressful. But I think because I knew Colin was kind of stressed because it was a big test, I think, because I did.
Was I stressed?
A little bit. But there was definitely like with the ramming it into first gear when I shouldn't have, whatever else. That was purely just because I was like, I'm sensing there's some nerves in the room, and I've forgotten how to drive, but I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, but the thing is that any mistakes that you made were good for me, because I made sure I had to see them and have the discussion.
So I did make a mistake. I was like, look at me go, Colin, get do it. You're gonna pass it, fine.
I'll do this, and you can see
Round the roundabout, I'm like, Colin, I've done it again.
Although interestingly, do you know what was interesting? Sorry, we're just moving away from the preparation here. Just while I think about it.
Go for it.
There was in the debrief after the part 3, there was a point where the examiner had said to me about, I dual controlled you, and I should have and I should have pulled you in it and spoke to you about it. And I didn't dual control you.
Yeah, no, because you did not say as well that I didn't do an over the shoulder check, and you were like, yes, you did.
That was on a
no, that was
lesson.
that was different.
So the examiner thought I dual controlled Rachel. I got marked down for not having a conversation about that when I didn't dual control you, and I did think, well, if I had been a borderline pass and that mark down was was something the examiner got wrong.
What happened with that was, it's like I hesitated at a roundabout and I slammed the brakes on because I didn't stop. You know what I mean? It was like an abrupt stop though.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's maybe why I thought you just because it was a very immediate stop, but it was just me going, actually no, I don't want to go yet.
And the thing is, we spoke about it while we were moving,
but
the examiner thought that I dual controlled you and had to
Yeah.
But at that point, the examiner's already made his mind up. He's already, given you your score and told you if you've passed or not. So yeah, I thought that was a bit off. Anyway, so planning wise, so what did we do? Yeah, I went in and drove the route a number of times at the appropriate time of day, and checked out the timings and all that kind of stuff. But the other thing that we'd been doing is we've been making our lessons sort of very heavily centric around the test centre, just so that when you come to your test, you're not getting surprises with the roads, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah,
because I'd never been to the test centre before until you had that.
No, why
I mean, typically that's kind of the same with everyone if they do a driving test. I've never really been to the test centre until then, but I'm going to pass my test first time. Watch that. Because I've been down at the test centre and stuff. I'm going to be like, this is fine. This is my turf. I know exactly what I'm doing. It's going to be just fine.
You are going to pass your test first time. I know that.
Yeah. But no.
Sorry. We're the tangent again, haven't we?
No, it's good. So you got to your preparation, you'd started taking the lessons more towards the test centre and the roads that you're potentially going to be using on the part 3.
Yes. What I wanted to avoid was any surprises for Rachel. So I wanted to make sure that she was well aware of the area. I'd done the route a few times. I didn't do the actual route with you though, did I? No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
No, because remember we went through the shopping centre, etc.
Yeah. But see, I'm glad that you didn't do the actual route though.
Because, well, I didn't want you acting.
Yeah, because I think had I went and actually done the route first, then if I was doing that drive on your test, I would effectively just be kind of trying to autopilot.
Yeah.
And then it just wouldn't have really had the same effect. I mean,
I
just went and done it for the first time.
The whole thing was I wanted the lesson to be a natural lesson, and just things to be as they would be. And yeah, it seemed to work out, didn't it? Well, we'll see. Yeah.
I was dropped
You passed. So what was the lesson? Can you remember what the lesson was and what the goals were?
Yes. So what we were doing is we were pretty good at big roundabouts where we've got lots of vision.
Yeah.
Right. But what we wanted to do was you didn't feel so strong at smaller roundabouts where either the vision was restricted or you had to make quicker decisions.
Yeah.
So we were so that was the need was to be able to make decisions about the roundabouts and be able to pull off, wasn't it? So we had looked at judging other vehicles as they would come to the roundabout, looking at their position, speed, realizing that their indicators weren't, they might lie sometimes. I think
that's something that helped very majorly. See, when you were don't look at the indicators, don't even think about the indicators, just look at where the car is and where just the position and stuff. And I feel as if that's helped loads even when I'm out on the road just now.
Okay.
I feel like that helps, not even just with roundabouts, I think just driving in general that kind of helps with, because typically if you're a learner, you're always like, oh, look for the indicators, but you don't really think much about everything
the bigger picture. So that's what the lesson was.
Okay, so was it judgment and awareness from the sounds of it? Something along those lines.
Kind of planning at smaller roundabouts. Preparation, being ready to go.
Yeah, because I know that was something.
We'd done a bit of practice of sort of 3, 2, 1 go, hadn't we? So that you were going exactly when you needed to go, rather than seeing a car coming past us on a roundabout and then getting ready and then going. It was kind of preparation in advance of coming to the smaller roundabouts.
Yes.
Interestingly, if we went to that one in Stewarton now that you don't like, how do you feel you'd get on with that?
I'm not going to lie. I don't think I'd do that great, to be honest, but I just don't like that one.
Well, let's do that next lesson.
Okay.
There we go. We've got the lesson plan sorted for next lesson.
Yep.
So what was the feedback based around the goals that you had? You said that some of the feedback from the examiner was when they thought that you dual controlled and hadn't. Was there what was the other feedback?
There was other things like apparently I was looking around too much, and as in when I was observing to see if things were safe, apparently me turning my head to look could be an indication to my learner that my learner should be doing something. So what I should have been doing was looking all around me, doing 360-degree vision just by moving my eyes, which I don't really get how I could do that. But yeah, I shouldn't be turning my head so much, because that's telling my learner that they need to do something.
You see, I've never really seen it that way though, because I feel like obviously as my driving instructor, you have a license, I don't. So like really, you should be making sure everything's safe. Because
yeah,
I mean, again, I don't have a license.
but
I might not be doing observations.
But the day you pass your test, you should be capable of doing everything yourself. So yeah, I get the point that they want to make sure that you are doing everything. But there again,
it's for like me silly things. Like I could be like going down a road and for whatever reason not check like my blind spots, like my left hand side or something, then go to turn. But you've seen someone and you've had to dual control me. But if you didn't do that, then I would have just went straight in and someone went into the side of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well that I thought was a bit strange was when you're choosing your learner for your part 3, they say don't take somebody who's right at the beginning of the journey, don't take somebody who's right at the end of the journey, take somebody that's kind of in the middle. So if you're in the middle of your journey, of course, they should be looking to make sure that you've seen stuff. You know?
You would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would think.
I would think.
I would think too.
Yeah. There we have it. Conclusion to that conversation.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know, maybe was the timing of you looking. I don't know. It's an interesting one because you're responsible for the safety ultimately, and not the student. And that's every lesson, even up, because I've had people catch me off guard that are coming close to their test. And I don't expect some of the mistakes that happen. Just a lapse in concentration on the road, as you know, can be quite dangerous and very quickly. So yeah, that's odd and something I'd be interested in to figure out if I'm doing something right or wrong. But you've got to check. You can't not check that it's clear before a student commits onto a new road.
But apparently I should be checking just by moving my eyeballs and not my head.
Because I think it was, see, like when you were doing like very obvious observations, it was at times where I should have been doing them as well. But that's why you were doing them, to make sure that, yeah, she's definitely kind of clocked this is safe before you go to it. And I feel like that's just kind of routine part of being a teacher, especially if you're on a busy road or a roundabout or whatever. Because I don't know. Because like if you weren't doing that, and as I say, if I just pulled out and there was someone that I couldn't see or just didn't check for, car's written off.
Exactly. You don't have to pay for it.
I don't know.
The examiner doesn't have to pay for it.
I'll write car off.
No, don't do it.
So was there any other feedback apart from maybe that?
Do you know, there was. I got quite a sheet of feedback, but do you know, it's one of those, I don't have it with me, unfortunately, but it's one of those funny things that, you know, when they say you've been successful, everything else, you're sitting, you're nodding your head and you're, but what did he say? So I think that's probably the two main things that I remembered from it. But yeah, after the successful, it's like, you can tell me anything, I don't care.
You've passed.
You've passed. That's the main thing. The examiner's talking to you, and you're thinking, I've got to phone the wife now and tell her that I passed. This is going to be awesome, and then phone all my mates and. But
it's good. So what happened on your first part 3 then? We'll go back to that one a little bit to understand the differences. So
that was really interesting. So I turned up at the waiting room, quite a thing, a few other, a few ADIs in there. And of course you walk into the waiting room without a learner with you. They all know that you're in for a part 3 because why else would you be on your own in the waiting room? Your learner's in the car. Oh, excuse me. And my examiner came out, and the first thing he said was really, really a bit strange. Was that did I have was I on a pink license? And I said, no, I'm not on a pink license. And he said, he said, so you're teaching for free? I said, yes. Nobody who teaches for free ever passes first time. Okay. And then he said, do you have an audit registered trainer? And I said, yes, I do. I said, my trainer is the lead trainer for the franchise that I'm with for the West of Scotland. And I knew that my examiner knew my trainer because my trainer has mentioned it by name a number of times. He said, oh, are you sure he's audit registered? I said, oh, yes, I am. Oh, it's just lots of people say they're audit registered and they're not. I'm thinking, this is, why are you going down this line of conversation with
I'm
me.
not being funny. Someone should have said this to me a while ago.
Yeah,
It's a bit late now.
yeah.
We're doing it.
And then we had the lesson, which I thought had gone really well. I was told that I should have dual controlled my learner at a particular point. I didn't feel it was necessary, but obviously from the back of the car, he thought it was, and got back to the test centre, and I had a score of 25. Now I have a friend who's done exactly the same route as me, same route as in same journey, if you like. He had his first part 3 a week before me. He also scored exactly the same points and had almost verbatim exactly the same remarks. I thought that's really weird, and he's not learning through the franchise. I thought it kind of stunk a bit. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not. I would hate to say that examiners are loaded in any way at all, but it left me with a little bit of a bad taste, if that makes sense. So upon reflection, I did realise that some of what he'd said had a lot of validity, hence why they had to change before second part 3. But yeah, I was. In fact, even one of the ADIs in the waiting room had said to me, "Oh, your examiner will be so and so. He doesn't pass anybody first time." And I thought, just.
Never understand why they do that to people.
But do they do it?
But,
sorry. Are you on about examiners not passing people
no,
first time?
people say that to people, like.
Oh right, okay,
they get in for a
sorry.
test, so they never pass people.
Yeah,
it's like, well, you know what I mean? They'll just cancel it and rebook it. Then, like, why would I want to do it?
I thought you meant people passing people first time. Yeah, okay, yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, okay. So yeah, there was a little bit of a bad taste during the first one.
Yeah, because you're not setting off from a good point, are you? You're setting off almost on the back foot.
Yeah, but then came back and thought I had an awesome lesson, and my learner thought it was an awesome lesson as well. So yeah. But anyway, it was what it was. We're past now, thank goodness.
Yeah.
From your first part 3 to your second part 3, what lessons did you learn and take forward to then apply and get ready for your next one?
So yeah, hazard drill was probably the biggest takeaway from my first part 3.
So I'm assuming by hazard drill you mean MSPSL, and then
Yes.
that broken down into its relevant
Correct
things. Yeah, so I don't teach MSPSL as MSPSL until a little bit later. I try and build backwards because I think people trying to remember all of it at once is quite complicated. So I introduce it a little bit later when we get to, oh, you're slowing down, you're speeding up. Maybe we should start looking and making sure it's safe to do that, and then adding mirrors in and everything else. But it's interesting that you'd managed to get to a part 3. I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, I was aware of like the old mirror signal maneuver.
Yeah.
Which made sense. But again, my trainer hadn't discussed hazard drill with me. I suppose if I'd spent more time reading the books, I would have been more aware, because to be fair, it's in there. But there was no
the driver essential skills, I think, isn't it? And maybe the highway code.
Yes.
I'm going to say, don't look at me, because I know you give things to read. I'm just like, yeah, this is great. Read your tags. I read this every night before I go to bed.
Yeah. And
I actually have something that I'm stuck with. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll read it.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of, where do you start the hazard drill? That was a question. Where do you start the hazard drill? And I had never really discussed that with my learners. Where do you start it? It's always, mirrors if you.
It's funny, that's something you say all the time now, though. See, like, when we're kind of doing anything, or when I'm doing something that's like going to be changing, like my driving, it's the first thing you always end up asking. So when do you start your hazard drill? And it's always, I've started it. And you do it. I think it's just a thing that you picked up and you just ask it. But I think that's a good thing, though, because I think as a driver, you're like, that's an indication I should definitely be doing this. I'm always doing it anyway, but I'm definitely doing it.
Yeah.
But,
hopefully that'll stand you in good stead when you do your test. Yeah. So did we answer the question, or did we go off on one there?
Yeah, no, we got there. It was Yeah, it was your lessons learnt from your first part three to your second part three.
Yes.
And we've been through the preparation, all that kind of stuff. So now we've got, I guess, Rachel, you've got your driving test coming up. Is it next month or the month after?
September, at the start of September,
Yeah.
end of the first week.
Yep, we're in mid-July just now, aren't we? So yeah.
Oh, that's not that far away, is it?
7 weeks.
Yeah.
7 weeks.
It's gonna be fine.
You'll be fine.
It's gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
I have every confidence.
I'm just going to charm them. I'm going to talk with them way through the relationship. They'll be like, she's wonderful. And I'm like, I know, give me the licenses. Give it to me.
You'll be fine.
And they'll watch this and go, we're not going to give it to her because we know what she's doing.
Shall I wait until after you've passed before we put it out?
It's fine. It's fine.
Nah,
I've got confidence in myself. It's fine.
Anybody who's
you'll be all right.
the podcast will wonder, how did Rachel get on?
So what made you not go on the franchise route then?
Yeah, so when I started on this, I hate to use the word journey, but I suppose it is a journey. I'd just been made redundant. Learning to become a driving instructor had been in the back of my mind for a long time. I'd investigated it a few times before. Got made redundant just before COVID. So I kind of guessed that I wasn't going to get a job in my field for a wee while. So I thought, well, this could be the time because I can go and do my studying, do everything I need to do. That's when I found the franchise. I thought, this is great. This is going to be the way to do it. But then when I realized that things were going to take a little bit longer than I expected, I thought, actually, I'm going to have to get a job. So I managed to get a job, which meant that the driving instruction or learning to become a driving instructor actually became slightly secondary because you've got to pay the bills first.
Yep.
And then when I realized that my job, to be fair, actually pays more for less hassle than being a driving instructor, I thought, I still want to be a driving instructor, but my job's actually a bit easier. But by the same token, I'm 52 or 50. What I'm asking you. You don't know how old I am.
No idea.
I'm 52 now, and I know that I can't do my job forever. So, to be fair, becoming a driving instructor is, at the moment, it's going to be a part-time thing. And then potentially when I'm no longer to physically do the job that I do now, it will become more full-time. It should take me through into retirement and post-retirement. So on that basis, I didn't see any point in spending the money on a franchise when I was only going to be doing the job part-time. Obviously, the company I trained with, they were trying to tell me, yes, but you only need to do so many hours per month, and you'll earn more money, etc., etc. But when you look around, the numbers didn't make sense to me. It just made more sense to be independent, and particularly because plenty of people were saying you'll get loads of work, you'll be fine. Interestingly, I haven't actually really started advertising. In fact, I haven't advertised at all.
I've actually been to ask you for some of your cards, and I'm like, because people ask me all the time.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they're just like, who do you drive with? And I'm just like, Colin. And they're like, what? And I'm like, Colin.
Some of my cards. There you go.
Just Colin.
I've got my roof box signed up.
Yeah.
But I've had a couple of phone calls.
But
yeah, because I'm doing another job full time, I can afford to sort of be a little bit picky and choosy. I've turned some people down. Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah.
Went all this way to get your driving instructor thing, you're just like
knocking people back.
No, I'm not doing it. Go away.
but I've had, in the 2 years almost 2 years that this journey has been, I've had a number of learners who have passed. I've had a number of learners who have started with me and then not gone on for whatever reason. But I think I'm actually going to be choosy about who I take on. Because it's, some people you just get a feeling that the rapport's got to be right, and if that's not right, it's no good for them.
Because I find as well, I've even said this, see, in terms of like instructors and stuff, because obviously I've had previous lessons and whatever else, and that didn't work out, and it was just because I knew, and I've told you about things that happened, whatever else, and it just wasn't the right sort of like back and forth to kind of get the learning properly. Because you need to be able to I don't know. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
So anyway, so basically, I only teach people I like now.
But I think you've got to be a people person for the job as well, haven't you?
Sorry,
You've got to be a people person to do the
yes,
job. It's
yeah,
and you've got to be able to build that rapport. I mean, something that I do, I don't turn people down. I'll take anyone on, but I don't offer block booking like discounts or anything like that. Um,
yeah.
I just offer a full refund after the first lesson. So if,
Okay.
like you said, like you've done with your lessons, Rachel, if people aren't happy after the first lesson, I'll give them the money back and they can go off and find someone else.
I've decided that I'm never going to book anybody more than 4 lessons in a. Well, actually, you'll book more than 4 lessons than that. So, exception of you, because you've got your test. Okay,
I'll do it on.
anybody new coming up, and nobody's going to be able to book more than 4 in advance because rapport goes up and down as well. And I would hate somebody to be stuck if they didn't like me, and feel awkward about going on a driving lesson because they're only going to end up cancelling and messing you about and whatever. So yeah, I'm not going to book anybody sort of too far in advance. Yeah, there we go.
That's something that I find interesting. You might be able to help, Rachel. It's when you go with a driving instructor, I found a lot of people just pick the first one that gets recommended and stick with them until they pass their driving test, or they almost don't like going and they've got to the last resort is try a different driving instructor. Was you fairly quick just to shop around?
I was with my last instructor. I mean, this was years ago now. I think I must have been about 17, but I was with him maybe for like a few months or so. But I mean, like you seen how very little I knew how to drive, and it was just I think I just took in not as much. So he kind of taught other people that I know and whatever else, and they done really well and they spoke really highly of him and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, okay, that's fine. But then it's just I knew like from the first lesson, I was just like, we're not going to get on. But I just kind of kept it because it was like it was booked as a block initially anyway. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to do it now. So I was just like, right, that's fine. So I just continued to do it, and then I think it just became like a habit of going out, if that makes sense. I was like, I'm just continuing my lessons, whatever else. But it kind of got to a point. I mean, it was more money as well. But see, once I kind of came to the conclusion, right, I'm not going to do this, blah, 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 and I stopped doing it. I was like, do you know what? I think that was actually a really good shout on my part because I don't actually think I was learning as much as what I should have been for the amount of time that I've been spending.
You don't want to be in the situation where you're gonna and you're just basically going through the motions. And as a driving instructor, I'd hate to think that somebody was just going through the motions with me.
Yeah.
The aim is to get them to pass the driving test. You don't want to. I know some driving instructors will just sit and take money off people, and the longer they take them, they're quite happy.
Yeah.
But it's
I
not
think that might have actually been the case for them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think they were just kind of like, well, it's money, you're still coming out, so it's fine. But personalities were very clashing. It was, I think, most things it ended up turning into more of an argument than a discussion. If you know, it was just like, I'm not taking in for it. But
what stopped you looking for another instructor then?
Well, I think so. I ended up having my wee girl and stuff like that, and I think like it just kind of makes you a bit anxious because it's like it's not a dangerous situation to be in, but you kind of view things a bit differently. And I was like, oh, I'll have a wee girl, go and get a job and whatever else, and hopefully a better job and whatever. And I just put it off for like a really long time, and it just so happened by chance that my mum
That's right.
knows Linda, and then I was just like, okay.
That's right.
And here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
It was a sign.
There you go. You get to drive for free.
I know.
Hey.
Mum was like, you get no idea how lucky you are. And I'm just like, yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's one thing that I find interesting in it. I don't understand it all too much is people don't try different instructors and they pick the first one, stick with them. And then I've had a few come to me that have had a few different instructors and struggled with them. But yeah, there's got to be a better way to do things where people are willing to just go and try a few different instructors because not every instructor is going to work for every student and vice versa. People need to find what works for them. But looks like you found it now and you've got your driving test coming up.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
I'm not worried about anything.
Fine.
Still a few things to practice, but we are literally at the practicing stage rather than learning anything new stage.
Yeah, no, like because as I was saying earlier, I'm at a point now where like it's making me feel more annoyed that I don't have a license, because when I get in the car, I'm just like, I literally know how to drive. I just don't have a license.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be fine.
What things have you found difficult while you was learning then? Have you found any of the what parts of learning to drive have you found difficult?
I think actually the most difficult part was actually the first time we went out, because mind, I just wouldn't leave the industrial estate for about 4 lessons, because I was like, I'm not, and I've been in a car before and I drove before, and I don't know what it was. I found it really difficult to kind of get the confidence back again.
See, you know what I'm going to say here, probably.
I don't know.
Remember, every time we went anyway, you were like, it was always slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down.
Love speeding. It's wonderful.
But now you don't at all, do you?
I don't. I wish I could. I know it's not the right thing to do.
It was almost trying to get Rachel to slow down her thinking and her being, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm a very fast thinker, and I do things a lot quicker.
But you don't now. In the car, you get in the car and relax.
Yeah.
I try and say that the car's like a kind of Zen place, you know, and it's a place of calm and all the rest of it, and blah blah blah. So, but that took a while to get you.
I think what it was, though, I think it's just, see, now that I'm kind of like more towards the end of my learning experience, I think because most things are now just muscle memory, it's taken away the kind of stress factor to like trying to do a million things at once, because you just do it anyway. And so it's kind of just, you know, the penny drop thing where I can just put
penny drop.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was just kind of confidence and confidence and concentration are the words that I'm. But, yeah.
And you didn't feel too nervous on the part 3 as well then? You said that you had a few mistakes, a bit of tension at the beginning.
I don't think I was particularly nervous. I think I was actually just more nervous for Colin, if that makes sense. See, because like you're kind of sitting there like, right, I want you to pass it around, and like I think, not that I wanted to make a few mistakes. Obviously, it wasn't deliberate, and I didn't do it deliberately. But you know what I mean? I'm just like, my biggest worry was getting in the car, and it just ended up being like a perfect drive. I was just like, oh no, if it goes really well, then you've got nothing.
See, I obviously with Rachel having sort of come through in the journey with me, you know, it's what I'm having to go through. We've always discussed it, haven't we? You know, and what my examiner is going to be looking for, etc., etc. So I haven't shied away from, you know, telling Rachel, you know, the sort of whole story. We've been very open about, you know, open about it. So
I mean, you're learning. Well, you were learning, and I was there, so it was just like, you know, I
still learning. Never stop learning.
I might actually become a driving instructor, and I think I could do it now. I've been just part of this journey for so long that I think technically I'd do it first time. It'd be fine.
Could have waited 3 years.
Never mind.
We'll see you back on here in 3 years as a driving instructor.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm never going to be an audit trainer, so I won't be training you to be an instructor.
Do you think it helped? Do you think it helped knowing the ins and outs of the process then? Because my first one I had done similar. I told her about it. The lad on my second part 3 that I passed, I didn't really tell him anything. I was just like, an examiner's watching me. It'll be all right. Just do your thing. But do you think it helped knowing what you was going into?
I think it helped a lot, and I actually think, see, you're like just everything you've been doing as part of your process becoming a driving instructor is actually kind of helped my driving.
Okay.
But I think it's because you're kind of in a way teaching yourself how to teach someone how to drive. So when you're telling me how to do things, you're really breaking it down and telling me why you're doing it, opposed to just being like, right, okay, this is what we're going to be doing and blah blah blah. But I feel like,
I think some of the times when I'm telling you, I'm almost telling myself. I'm like reinforcing in my own head. But
I think that's useful to a learner at the same time, though, because I think like it's not just being told to do something; it's been explained and whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was quite beneficial, to be honest.
I think it's been good having you as my part 3 lesson person, and also, you know, leading up to not just for the lesson, because you give me really good feedback. You know, and if there's something that I've not explained properly, you know, rather than just go away and think I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
You know, you ask me to break it down and go over it with you, and you know, so you've definitely been a good person to have taken on that part 3.
You're welcome.
But that's what they want to see now, isn't it? That's where the client-centered bit comes from, and the coaching. It's no longer telling, like what we had when we was learning. It was do this, do that, do the other, away you go, do your driving test.
You know, and that's something that we do a lot. We kind of stock take, don't we? We have like, where are we? What do we need to work on? You know, we'll go through the list of stuff and you know, score ourselves on various bits and pieces. And the lessons, we pretty much, I might have an idea of what I want to cover, but it's always discussed. And if it's, you know, if it's not what you feel we need to cover, you know, we go with what you feel, and sometimes steer it towards what I think. But
see, I think as well, it's obviously just because of the process we've been having, like through you learning how to be an instructor, and like you having to kind of take down what I know how to do and what I don't, just for the sake of tests and whatever else. It's made me quite critical of my own driving, in the sense of I notice when I'm not doing things properly, opposed to just letting you tell me if I'm not doing it properly. So I'm just like, actually, this needs working on because I'm not doing it.
So learning with a PDI is a good thing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go, folks. Top tip.
I think.
If you want to learn to drive, learn with somebody who's not yet a driving instructor.
It's really good because they don't know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
you know.
No, you don't know.
Yeah, now he's qualified. That's I think that's where the coaching comes from. It is the students responsible for the learning. Like you said, you know when you're making mistakes, you maybe know why the mistakes have happened, and you know what you need to do to rectify them. And that's a lot of what it's supposed to be now. And that's where my understanding is that's where it's been directed to, rather than telling you what you need to do, letting you take responsibility for your learning. But yeah, it's interesting listening to it from a completely different point of view. My students would just throw me under the bus at the minute, I think.
You've actually been good occasionally, more than occasionally, but like doing a bit of homework.
Yeah, I do sometimes.
Because there's
once in a blue moon, sometimes.
Sometimes. I mean, there'll be. I can think of one occasion.
I do actually see like it must be a time and stuff, and I think it's just. I think I'm just one of those types of learners, I'll call them. Like I'll sit, like you know, like on TikTok and stuff like that, and I'll specifically look up things that I've been doing on my lessons to watch other people doing it. Which
is exactly where I was going to go. I remember there being a lesson. I can't remember specifically what it was, but I just couldn't seem to find the words to teach you how to do it. We just didn't seem to be getting it to drop into place.
Yeah.
So I pretty much said, go and have a look at it on YouTube, and we'll talk about it next time. Yeah. What was that? I can't remember what that was, but I remember having that conversation.
I can't remember it either.
Oh, there you go. Well, obviously with
I can clearly do it now.
Yeah, exactly. but yeah, I mean, I accept that. I can't teach everything. You can't always explain things the way that.
No, but I think, like to a certain degree, I think that if you're obviously learning how to do something, you do kind of need to take a bit of responsibility for your own learning. Like, see if
that's the key.
If there's certain things where it's just like, right, I know they're trying to get something across, but they just can't figure out how to kind of word it in a way that's going to work for me. Just kind of like like it's kind of give and take. Like you still have to kind of.
Do you know one of the biggest? I mean, obviously, I've got other learners as well, right? You're motivated. You want to learn to drive, right? So you're taking responsibility for learning as well as obviously me helping you. But I've got other learners who are only learning to drive because their parents want them to learn to drive. Every week they turn up, they give you a little bit of money, and they sit and have a lesson, and you think you actually don't really want. It's not that you don't want to be here; it's just you're not as focused as somebody who is maybe paying it out of their own pocket. And
it's funny because I feel like, after having Daisy and whatever else, I think that's where the motivation came from. Because if I didn't have Daisy, I'd probably still be like, public transport's fine.
So there you go. There's a second top tip: don't learn to drive until you have a child and get grown up.
Just don't take on people that don't have kids, because the ones that have kids are like, no, actually, I'm going to try really, really hard. It's going to be fine. But you know what I mean? I think I just feel motivated to actually get my license because it just makes my life a lot more convenient.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
There's a top tip on finding the right students as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and I'm convinced that I'm not going to take people who I don't get on with. The kind of the less motivated students I've got, I kind of almost have to have them because of family connections and friends and whatever. So you can't not have those ones. But if I'm not going to take bookings more than 4 weeks ahead. So if someone does come to me and they can't be motivated, well, I've got to think about my stats as well when it comes to standards checks. So You know, do you really want to keep flogging a dead horse with people who can't really be bothered? So yeah.
Yeah, I think you do get some students like that that just turn up and are going through the motions.
Yeah.
And I found it difficult sometimes because it's a week between lessons. And if you don't think about driving for a week, it's going to take a lot longer to learn.
Yeah.
But yeah,
One of the things I did, obviously before I passed my part 3, was obviously you want people to be driving with you as much as possible for them and for myself. So if somebody hadn't passed their theory, I couldn't find the word for it there.
I was going to say it for you, but I was like,
I appreciate it.
it's there.
Yeah, if somebody hadn't passed their theory, I would only allow them 1 lesson a week, and essentially passing their theory would unlock access to. Well, it's like going through a computer game, isn't it? Gets you to the next level, which is you can have more than 1 lesson this week. So
yeah. I feel like, see, like if
you're
not
only 1 anyway.
Pardon?
You're only taking 1 lesson a week anyway.
Yeah.
But you could, yeah. Listen, you're on track.
Yeah, I'm
so
fine.
yeah,
I'm just fine.
So I don't need to worry about you. But
it's fine. No, about the theory thing though, I feel like that kind of does make sense though, because I feel like, see, before you do your theory, you don't really actually know much about the road. Let's see until you've actually studied.
Yes.
For that, so like, I feel like after I did my theory, there was a lot of stuff that kind of fell into place for my driving. Once I actually went, so that's what that means.
Yeah.
That's what all the signs mean. They're not just there for me to look at and go, "Pucks."
Yeah,
that's
pretty big.
Yeah.
But I've got some learners that you say to them every week, "Have you booked your theory yet?" No. And you think, well, why not? Do you not want to? Do you not want to pass your driving test? And you know how long it takes to get a theory test, and then and to get a test date, and then to get a.
Your theory's not so bad now.
Yeah, it's come down, hasn't it? I was quite surprised because you got yours really quickly.
Yeah, I think I done mine the week after. No, I think I booked it like 4 weeks after I failed the first one.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure that I'd actually
learn something.
Yeah, learn something properly before and feel like
interestingly, we didn't do this with you, but some of my learners, I give them theory lessons, and everyone who has had theory lessons has passed the theory test first time. So obviously, not the proper books for that, but they've all worked, and they've all had awesome hazard perception scores. So yeah, I think the theory lessons is helping as well. And do you do that at all, or?
I don't. This is my next mission. It's figuring out how to help my students with the theory test. It's not something that I currently do. I've got someone lined up to come on the show who that's a lot of what he does now is theory support for people.
Okay.
But what was you doing for the theory test? How was you helping your students?
So the way that I approached it was I used some of the. Sorry, you push for time.
No, I'm just checking to make sure that.
So I started with the hazard perception because let's face it, loads of young ones these days are into sort of computer video game type things. So I started with the hazard perception and described what they were looking for. Went through, did the clips, obviously got really low scores, and then we went back and reviewed the clips. But not only, when we were reviewing the clips, we reviewed specifically what the DVSA are looking for you to be clicking. So we looked at the sort of patterns that, if you see somebody indicating, then wait for the brake lights coming on. There's a chance there's going to be a hazard coming up if you're on a very narrow road, you can expect there's going to be a horse.
You actually did do like a wee bit of.
Well, we did some in the car, didn't we?
Yeah, we did some in the car.
We're not in the office.
We're not in the office because you got the tablet.
We did.
The laptop, tablet thing in the car.
Did. Yeah, you're right. We did. And then when it comes to the questions, the way I've been approaching it is we start just basically going on to one of the websites that gives you X number of questions, and we go to the question. And if they think they know the answer, and I think that they're answering it wrong, we'll sit and discuss it, and we'll discuss, well, you think it's this, but it could be this, and and what do I need to teach you about, whether it's to do with road markings or whatever, and we basically go through that way. So rather than learning a topic at a time, it's most people will know some stuff because you're walking around every day and you see road signs and you see things. I think most people know more than they think they do at the start. Yep. but we look at answering the questions, and then we look at discussing why the answer is the answer. And yeah, it seems to be working. Well, there's been more than one occasion when I've said, no, the answer is this, and I've been wrong. So it just makes me look daft.
Yeah.
But hey,
There we go. Always learning.
yeah, always learning. Never stop learning.
Yeah, the theory is something that I need to figure out to try and offer my students it. I've had a couple fail recently. So there needs to be something that I can do and help them, because something's missing and I can't figure it out. They're all doing the apps or telling me that they're doing the apps, but I guess they're different questions.
The other thing that I realized as well was no point in just using one app. And I've been telling all my learners, download 3 or 4 different apps. Don't stick with the same one.
See, this is the thing. I'm going to stop you there.
You stuck with the one.
No, I bought the proper
DVSA one.
Yeah, I bought that one.
£5.
Yeah, it was like £4.99.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah,
sorry.
Penny off.
A penny.
We're in difficult times right now.
Okay.
But obviously I failed it the first time when I was using just like random apps and stuff, and I was like, right, blah, blah, blah. But then see when it came to the second one, I found that more beneficial because it had like, if you paid for that entire app, like it has like kind of breakdowns and stuff, but it explains everything to you, not just telling you that's what it is.
Well, that's the important thing, is you always, if you get the question wrong, you've got to review it and find out why the answer is the answer.
My test, I went to Witherspoons in there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I didn't consume any alcohol, but I had the refillable free coffees and whatever else, got myself some lunch, and I sat for about 6 hours, I think.
Really?
Mm-hmm. On the app, and I was just doing repetitive. Obviously, like I'd done all the kind of studying on it, and it was marked 100%, and I knew that I kind of knew everything, but I just sat in Witherspoons and just repetitively done the mock test over and over and over and over again. And
to get different questions.
To get different questions, and because it's obviously through them that app is. That didn't make sense, but you know what I mean.
I understand.
Yes. Once I went in for my theory test, most of the questions that were coming up were worded basically the exact same as what they were on the app. Yeah. So it was just like.
Did you find they were worded different on other apps?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like totally different.
There you go.
So like I find like it was the best app to use for like accuracy in terms of like, I don't know if you're like me, you're just trying to like remember things and whatever else you're doing. Because obviously I was learning the stuff, but I just found that app was most useful because it was more similar to the way that the test was going to be displayed.
What I was very aware of was if a question comes up and you're not quite sure of it, I didn't want my learners to remember that the correct answer is the top left.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted them to remember.
Because it mixed up the answers and stuff. So even if you got the same question again, a different mock test, like on a different mock test, it would mix up the answers and give you different wrong answers and stuff as well. But the right one was always there. You get me?
Yeah, I get you. I get you. I get you.
You're good.
So there we go. Theory test done. I'm still none the wiser as what I'm going to do. I need to find some good apps and figure them out.
Well, I've given you conflicting advice, so yeah, no one you're none the wiser. Just do what Rachel says. Fine. She's
go and sit in Wetherspoons for 6 hours.
Yeah, just
I passed mine for this. So I also know what I'm doing as well.
I thought you were going to ask me a question about theories, and I was like, I can't remember anything. I don't have to know anymore because I've passed it. It's fine.
No, you still have to know. You always have to know.
Did you pass your ADI theory test first time?
Yeah, of course. Does anybody else?
I failed.
Oh, sorry, Josh.
Twice.
You're not?
No.
Did anybody not?
You didn't? Did you?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Sorry. I wasn't saying that.
No, it's fine. I think I've said it on every episode so far. It shows that you watch.
I haven't yet. I'm sorry, but I promise I will.
No, it's all right. It's fine. So yeah, I failed my first one because I thought I knew everything. I'd done a couple of mock tests. Because I've done a few theory tests for different licenses. I've got my B+E, Cat C, a few other bits. Yep. So I've done a number of theory tests. So I was like, I got this. Done a couple of mock tests, smashed it. Went to the theory test, failed by, I can't remember what the pass mark was, but I got 1 below the pass mark. And then I went back a second time, overcomplicated it, overthought it, wasn't as confident, and second guessed every answer, failed that one. And then the third time, I was like, I actually know what I'm doing now. And yeah, passed it.
What about your part 2? How did you go with that?
Part 2, I passed first time.
Okay.
How did you get on?
Yeah, pass first time.
Obviously.
Yeah. What one? Do you know? I was really annoyed at failing my part three first time because driving test I passed first time, bike test I passed all the parts first time. Didn't drop. No, I dropped 1 mark. You do 3 tests for motorbike. I dropped 1 point in 3 tests for my motorbike. Passed my ADI theory test first time. Passed my part two first time, and I thought I'm ace. So it was it was a bit of a it was a bit of a shock to the system.
Yeah.
I maybe went in too confident, but you know,
Brought down a peg.
even my cycling proficiency I passed first time.
Does anybody not pass that first time, Colin? For Christ's sake.
So yeah, I was I just thought everybody passed their ADI part one anyway. I thought everybody would have passed that first time.
No, I
Sorry.
failed that twice. First one was lack of preparation and overconfidence. Second one wasn't very confident and second guessed everything, and I was fine on the third. But yeah, my part two, I passed that first time. I I just took the first available part two, which was in a town that I'd never been to before,
I did the same.
and I picked a car up from the franchise about 10 minutes from the test center, about half an hour before my part two. So I'd never driven the car before in a town that I'd never been to before for my part two.
My part two, I'm up. I'm well, we're not far from Glasgow here. We're half an hour from Glasgow.
Yeah.
I had to go down to the Lake District for my part two.
A bit of a difference.
Yeah, and took my wife's car, which is an automatic, which I don't normally get to drive. So I had to drive an automatic in a town that I didn't know. That was fine. It worked out all right. And I think I got 1 mark for hesitation or so. Oh no, I changed lanes, but I was kind of hesitated a bit late and then changed lanes a bit sharp.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was all right. So obviously disappointed with my first part three. But there you go.
That's how it goes sometimes, isn't it? You learn from it.
Yeah, on reflection, I think it was good to fail it because I at the time, I didn't want to be the guy who failed something and it's everybody else's fault. I didn't want to be that guy. And then when I did fail it, I was like,
That's your fault.
yes, their fault. But on reflection, and to be fair, it was my instructor who said, well, look at it from the examiner's point of view. He's maybe been looking for this. And one of the things that he also sort of stressed to me was that if you get low marks for, let's say, the first couple of competencies where you're looking at sort of lesson planning, etc., low marks there will automatically mean low marks elsewhere. So if you cock up the first bit, you're not going to pass. And one of the other things that we did as well on my very last lesson that I did with my my instructor sitting in, and right up until my last lesson, every lesson that I'd done, well, mainly with you, he'd always said, nah, that's not going to be good enough. But the very last lesson, he said, yeah, I think you might just have scraped that one.
Yeah.
It's like the only positive thing we'd ever heard, wasn't it?
Yeah. It wasn't.
So we then sat and said, well, look, if you reckon I've got two, ones in this, how can I make those twos, and how can I turn those twos into threes? So I was looking at ways of just kind of, sort of turning up a few of the bits and pieces. And one of the things I thought was really interesting to turn a 1 to a 2 or a 2 to a 3 was in my first part 3, I got marked down for, the bit where it says about you discriminatory towards other road users, right?
Yep.
And I think I'm nice as pipe to other people and whatever. I didn't think there was anything wrong there.
Yeah.
And I was stunned that I got a 1 instead of a 3 for that. And my trainer had said to me, well, it could be that you've referred to that car as, watch out for this. Yeah, watch out for him on the left, right? And you can't say him, you have to say watch out for that vehicle. And you can't refer to a type of vehicle. We had an experience with black BMWs, didn't we? We had 2 black BMWs and the same lesson
Oh my God.
But obviously, you can't refer to a type of vehicle when it's
Can, and I will.
you can, but I can't, or a van or whatever. So I was absolutely super careful on my second part 3. I don't know if did you notice, not to be discriminatory in No, I can't say either.
I know what you're
Right.
trying to
In any way at all. And I still got marked down. I still didn't get a 3. It's like, come on.
Do you know why you got marked down for it on the second one?
No,
Oh,
no, it was never explained.
so
Never.
I lost points for that on my first one. I don't know why or how. I don't think I did on my second though.
If that had been the 1 point you needed to make a difference between unsuccessful and successful, that's pretty bad,
say.
isn't
I'm
it?
trying to kind of reflect on that lesson I'm thinking about, and
It's a blur to me now.
I can't really think.
Yeah.
I think I got 29 on my first one, and I dropped a point on the non-discriminate. I can't say it now. You got me on it. Yeah, I think I got 29 on my first one. And the pass mark's 31 anyway, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I got 29 on my first, and I was looking at that. I was like, even if I did get a 3 on that, I still wouldn't have passed. But the feedback that I got from the examiner, I understood why I'd failed, and I could go away and work on it, and then passed like yourself a few weeks later. So not too much to worry about there on the being discriminatory.
Yeah.
Might have been right. Who knows?
It's a word, I believe
We should just spell it.
Yeah.
But I understood what my instructor was saying to me about about not be discriminatory.
Yeah.
But I couldn't thank you. I couldn't understand how I had failed to put that fully into practice. But anyway, hey ho. And of course, the other thing as well is that you're not allowed to record your part 3 in any way. So, for example, I mean, the one that really annoyed me was the dual controlling.
Yeah, I was thinking that because I was like, see if you were allowed to. I think you should be allowed to record it for the sake of if you failed that again.
If I needed to appeal that.
Yeah, and you could just be like, right, well, I feel as if that was, but like you really, really broke it down and you were like, right, I've actually been marked down for something here and I can see quite clearly that I haven't actually done it and whatever else, but I feel like you should be allowed to record it even just to reflect on it, even if you're just like, right, well, that's fine, I know what I did there and I can use that and take it further.
Yeah, because you finished your part 3, you sat there in the car park and the examiner is saying to you, your emotions are extremely heightened. You're not taking everything in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to write notes, etc. But you should. I think you should be able to record them. But obviously, if you can record it, everybody's going to start appealing left, right, and centre, aren't they? But it just seems a bit daft that they can. And examiners are wearing body cameras now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can record you, but you're not allowed the same.
I'd be like, I'm requesting your body camera footage so we can see my foot. I did not put I didn't dual control.
Apparently they don't switch the camera on unless they feel threatened.
Oh.
Apparently.
Right.
What do you think about that? Should you be allowed to record?
I don't know. I kind of have mixed views on it. The part 3, I think, is different to a standard L test because you're not allowed to record you're allowed to have your dash cam on for insurance purposes, but you're not allowed sound on, are you? Correct. For a normal test.
But yeah, your dash cam's not really, well, I suppose some will record what's going inside the car video wise, but once you do have like lip read, I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't know with the recording it. I don't think, even if you was allowed to record it, I don't think it's going to change the outcome of the result, because when you're not allowed to use footage, are you? For if you do, what's my word in now? If you complain about a result on your test, if you appeal, there we go. If you appeal, I don't think you can use the footage anyway, can you? Even if you did.
I don't know. It just seems a bit. Okay, I understand it's like a referee, their word is final, but it's again, if it comes down to this thing where it's one. I mean, if that dual control incident that wasn't an incident, if that had been the difference between me, let's say that was my third part 3, and I've invested thousands and thousands of pounds, and and hundreds of hours,
Yeah.
you know, for my future career to feed my family and pay my mortgage. And it's come down to him saying something that I know is not true, and I have no way of appealing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem very fair, does it?
Not when you put it in that context, no, if it's 1 mark. But then I think if you look at the whole lesson as a whole, if it's just 1 mark and that one remark has just dropped the 1 point or maybe 2 or 3 points, looking at the full lesson is potentially there's going to be areas where you could have been marked lower or higher anyway, I guess, if you look at the full picture opposed to just one incident.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, you know, it could have been the discriminatory thing as well. You know, it might have been nice to be able to go through and say, well, where was I discriminatory? You know, so it might have been a few points marked, but like you say, he might also have, the examiner might have marked me higher in some instances than another examiner might have done. So you don't know. It just seems a little bit unbalanced. But anyway.
Yeah, but I think that was one of the good learning points I took from the first part 3 to the second, was how all the competencies are linked. And like you were saying earlier, if you drop something somewhere, you'll drop them somewhere else.
Yes.
So I think they can tell whether a lesson's a good lesson, an average lesson, or a fail.
Yeah.
But that's my inexperienced view. I've only been qualified about 2 years. So the longer I do these shows, the more knowledge I'll get, I guess, about the part 3s and standard checks.
I think you're right. I think my feeling was that the examiner went away, reflected on the lesson, and then scored it when he was sat in his office. And he probably knew at the point that he was sitting in his office, is this guy going to be a fail? Is he going to be a scrape pass? Is he going to be a good pass? You know, and I think they probably, my feeling is that they fill in the marks to reflect what sort of pass or fail you've done. I don't know if anybody else feels that, but you know, I kind of feel that that's maybe what they do, but who knows?
We'll find out. I've had a few audit trainers on and a few more lined up to talk more about standards checks, part 3s, and what's expected of instructors. But it's I don't know, you see a lot of comments and everyone seems to have different views, different opinions.
Yeah.
And some people have an all right experience. The bloke that I had on, who in fact no, he's just gone out this weekend, he didn't go on a PDI license and passed his part 3 first time. So it must just be a Scotland thing that happens.
Yeah. Anyway, pass now. That's the main thing.
But it's doable. So we've been going a while now. Before we do disappear, have you got any bits of advice for people that are, because your part 3 was quite recent, wasn't it?
Yes, only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. What advice would you give to people that have got theirs coming up?
For their part 3? I would make sure that you properly I'm trying to say properly, not probably.
Properly.
You properly have good conversation with your trainer, and rather than relying on your trainer to train you, you should be fishing what you need out of your trainer. Does that make sense? Because I felt that I didn't really do that until the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks.
You were just going to do what you thought was right, but you weren't really getting anything out of your trainer to be able to fix it. So you were just going to do the same things over and over again. Until you were like, what am I doing wrong? And he's like, oh right, okay, well I'll tell you then, instead of just telling you.
I've got to take ownership of this.
Yeah.
Right. I've got to realise it's not like being at school where you just go sit and get spoon fed the information and then go and pass a test. You've got
to take responsibility for your own learning.
Thank you. Yeah, you've got to, if you don't feel you're getting the training support you need, make sure you get it, because you paid. Well, I paid up front, so I paid for it. So yeah. So that, and also make sure that you see, actual proper modern lessons. The lesson we did with my trainer teaching you, I sat and critiqued that as he'd been critiquing me, and picked up the good points and bad points, and I was able to ask him about it. But that was,
as well, you managed that. I mean, you got to like ask me about it as well. Just
yeah.
like, how did you find that different, and what could I be doing differently?
But that took a year for me to be able to sit in on the lesson. So I had asked my trainer, can I sit in on the lesson? And he never had a learner that was suitable or a time that was suitable. Because it's a big franchise, I then reached out to other people locally in the franchise, and I said, "Look, I would just like to sit in. I I just want to sit in and see what the lesson is like. I don't want to have discussion about it afterwards. I just want to see a lesson." And they were all, "Well, yes, you can sit in, but you'll need to pay for my learner's lesson." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not looking for any input. I'm not looking for input from you. I just want to sit in the back of your car. I just want to watch a lesson."
That's what really weird in the back. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Then go home.
But everybody wanted to charge me for sitting in the back of the car just to watch. And I felt that was a bit weird.
Yeah.
But in the end, by we got around it by my trainer. I was paying for him to come and train me anyway, so I just said, "Well, can you give Rachel a lesson so I can watch?" And there was a bit of, you could tell he wasn't keen, but we did it, and I think it really helped. So yeah, that'd be my top tip: is make sure you see lessons, take notes, see what they're doing, and discuss it with them afterwards.
Yeah, that's something I find amazing, that people don't get to watch many lessons. I was fortunate. I work quite closely now with the driving instructor. He lives about 5 streets down. And we work quite closely together, but we was both PDIs critiquing each other's lessons.
Yeah.
Without much input from trainers.
Yeah, exactly. And I was doing the same with this other friend of mine. We said, "Oh yeah, I like this, I don't like that, whatever." But all we had to go on was what we liked about what each other was liked or disliked about what each other was doing. We didn't know, where that was in terms of how it should be done.
I didn't actually know if it was
beneficial. We were winging it.
Yeah,
winging it.
So ask more questions. Do your own. Take responsibility for your own learning.
Absolutely.
And watch some driving lessons.
And the other thing is, going back to what we said at the start, don't assume that in order to become a driving instructor you have to join a franchise, because it seems to be other ways of doing it, whether it's private training from an audit trainer or whatever. I just assumed, as most of the other people I've spoken to have done, is that you have to join a franchise to learn to become a driving instructor. Doesn't seem to be the case.
No, that's where I'm hoping this can go, amongst other things, is people that are doing the research, looking at becoming a driving instructor, can realize that there's not only one route. Like yourself, you probably didn't get to choose your audit trainer. You just got given who you was given.
Yep.
And you've already paid a load of money, and there you go. That's who you're working with, rather than looking around, doing some research, figuring out, this trainer looks pretty good. I'm going to see if I can work with them to get qualified.
The other thing as well is when I'm teaching people to drive, I understand the importance of having a good rapport with my learner. So as a learner, I would want to see what my rapport is going to be like with my trainer, and see if I feel I'm going to learn from that person. But obviously, I haven't realised that until this far down the route. But anyway, that's where we are.
You've got a video you can share for people now.
That's it. Interesting. One of the things that we did during our lessons was we videoed lessons and then looked back on them, didn't we?
Yeah.
If I didn't look back on them so much with you,
no, not so much with you.
Look back on them with my trainer sometimes, but also the other PDI that I'm working with. We share videos as well, and have a look at what other people are doing, and see what's good and what's bad.
There's a few trainers out there that offer that. If you record a lesson, send it in to them, they'll watch it and give you some kind of good feedback around what you can change on the lesson. There's loads of people out there. It's just when you first start out in the industry, you find the big schools, the top of Google, and away you go.
Yeah, you just don't know. But there are other routes. There's other ways of doing it. More than one way to skin a cat.
Yes, there is. Anything else to add?
I wouldn't say so.
No,
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Well, thank you. You'll have to let us know how you get on with your driving test, or Colin, you drop me a message. Say
Get a
again.
good learner. Get a good learner. Get a good motivated learner you get on with, because it makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so.
And it makes the job pleasurable. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rachel.
You're very welcome.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight. I appreciate both of you coming on, taking the
No, thank
time,
you.
having a chat. It's been really enjoyable. It's great. Thank you.
Well,